Ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba. All right. Promoter 101. 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 Promoter 101.
Hi, this is Jason Kupperman.
Meg White.
Brian Jonas.
This is Eddie Clemens.
Jim Glancy.
Kevin French.
It's Marcy Allen.
Phil Ernst. Sean Sater.
Sean Striegel.
Tim Bohr.
Promoter 101.
Promoter 101.
Live and direct on Promoter 101.
You wanted the best, you've got the best. The hottest podcast in the world, Promoter 101.
I see you went a little Kiss opening this weekend, Steiny. So this is really episode 43 of Promoter 101. I'm Luke Pierce. And of course, that was Dan Steinberg. Not to name drop, but this week's Promoter 101 is straight up stacked with UTA's Jbeau Lewis sitting down with us to talk about the future of that agency.
Two of Toronto's iconic venue owners from the Danforth, Stephen Riff, and the Horseshoe's Jeff Cohen talk about the challenges of the marketplace in Canada.
Agent versus Promoter, we got Paradigm's Joe Atamian and the Majestic Live's Scott Leslie finally breaking their silence about the long-running prank.
And of course, we catch up with the news of the week.
Hi, it's Marcy Allen, president of Mac Presents, and honored to be on Promoter 101.
Get ready, Promoter 101 is coming to a town near you.
Seattle, Washington, Thursday, September 7th, Promoter 101's World Tour kicks off at the WA Conference with the Triple Tour's Scott Jampino and ICM partners Andrea Johnson.
Boston, we're going to be coming for you. Thursday, October 12th, we'll be at the Berklee College of Music's Berklee Popular Institute.
Following Beantown, October 16th, we're coming to Nashville for IEBA Conference. Get that hot chicken ready.
Twitter, do the socials. Keep up with us, of course. Dan on Twitter is at The Jew. This podcast is at Promoters, that's plural, Promoters 101. And I'm at W. Luke Pierce.
If you got thoughts, feedback, anything you want to tell us about the podcast, we probably want to hear from you. So send us an email with your ideas at steiny@promoter101.net. One of us will respond to every email. We guarantee it.
And please be sure to subscribe to Promoter 101 wherever you podcast.
That always sounds like such a weird line, man. Wherever you podcast. I don't know what it means. I know it's the right English. It just sounds a little weird.
You know, it's one of those things that it's got its own lexicon, Dan. We can't change it. Let's just be a part of it, you know?
I'm following you when it comes to the English language. I'm not the right person. Anyway, if you've missed any of the podcasts in the past, you can always catch up at promoter101.net.
Mike Luba, Madison S. Presents, Promoter 101.
Dan, the dog days of summer must be upon us. People must be taking their summer Fridays because I don't feel like this is a very big news week, man.
Well, you know, it happens. Screw it. You know what? Let's not even talk about the news. Let's talk about what we're seeing on our Facebook page. And right now, it's like everyone is at MSG for Fish's Baker's Dozen. Right now is night 4, and it's blowing up. How creative is that? 13 shows at Madison Square Garden, one group. Genius.
I mean, it is really, really genius. I'm sure the people in New York are losing their minds. I saw it a bunch on my Facebook as well today, too. People celebrating the summer with some amazing music, you know. And Fish always tends to bring out the best, and our friends, Dan. So excited to see how the other 9 shows wrap up. Best of luck to everybody at the shows.
I'm hearing that the first 2,000 people or so that come in every night get a specialized donut per show. I think last night was Red Velvet. That's a pretty cool thing.
That is pretty awesome. I mean, free donuts, get inside the venue, drink a little bit earlier. It's a pretty brilliant promotion.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing other people try to knock off the concept, but I think you got to be a certain size act to be able to pull off 13 nights anywhere. I mean, that's like Branson-style business.
Branson-style business to MSG. Yeah, it's kind of apples to apples, Dan.
You know, what the fuck? Why not? Hey, that's it for the news of the week, because it really just is that week.
This is Eddie Clemens from United Talent Agency. I'm here on Promoter 101.
Coming off the slow news segment, we're excited to bring an amazing first interview to this week's podcast. We're going to welcome United Talent Agency's Jbeau Lewis to Promoter 101.
Promoter 101, we are at the Sunset Marquee, the king of UTA. Jbeau Lewis, what's up, dude?
It's Thursday afternoon, Memorial Day weekend, and it's the weekend.
It's the weekend. See,
Feels
a lot
nice.
has changed since you were my territorial agent at CAA.
It has.
Catch
Yes.
us up.
Well, I don't know how long ago that was, but my life has been pretty damn different for the last 3 years, I'll say. It feels like yesterday, but I think I'm 2 weeks from 3 years at UTA.
It's been that long.
It has. I think it was June 6th, June 10th, something like that, 2014. So, yeah, we're almost there.
It's pretty cool. And since then, you were just the first of many. That was
Right.
really opened the floodgates.
Yeah, I mean, it was intended to be that way, I will say.
I don't want to disparage Rob Prince and Nikki. Like, there was music there, but
There was,
you guys
yes.
have done a whole new thing since you've gotten there.
Yeah, I like to call it a reboot. Not
Pretty
that there
cool.
was anything wrong with what Rob and Nikki were doing, and, respect and love both of them.
And Celine Dion's doing an amazing business, so I think they're doing fine.
And the Celine Dion and Jerry Seinfeld businesses are ample. But, we had a vision for where we wanted to take it. And I'd like to say that 3 years in that we're doing a decent job of executing on that vision. We've still got a lot to do and a lot more to go. But, 3 years into me being there, effectively a year and a half since acquiring the agency group, I think we're all pretty excited about the progress we've made so far.
And you guys have made a serious dent in the live music world. I mean, Guns N' Roses tour is yours. UB40's yours. It's Muse, right? That's you guys.
Correct, yeah.
Who else am I missing? I mean, I know there's a million acts, but the big ones.
Mariah Carey, Deep Purple, G-Eazy, the ex-ambassadors are coming up strong. A lot of exciting stuff in the hip-hop and rap space. Young artists like 21 Savage and Designer. It's on all fronts has been a lot of fun.
So in a quick snap of the fingers with the pickup of the agency group, you became an international agency overnight.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that was truthfully the most exciting part of that deal. UTA, obviously, from a film and television perspective, had been working internationally, but didn't have boots on the ground internationally.
And not only do you have boots on the ground, but you've got Neil Warnock.
Exactly. What Neil created in 1981 has obviously grown into a substantial organization, and to, effectively advance from having 2 offices in LA and New York to having 7 now, it gives us access to so many more things and the ability to reach so many different places of the world that we couldn't before, or that we, maybe not that we couldn't, but that were not as easily accessible.
And you guys have got your foray into Nashville at this point, too, because of that deal with some amazing players. I mean, Lance Roberts is a legend in Nashville. Kurt Motley is a king. Those guys are on the team.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the Nashville operation is awesome. I mean, they are, it's an interesting assortment, motley crew of guys down there that are running that ship. I mean, you've got Nick Minema, who's a Canadian guy who opened the office for the agency group 5 years ago in Nashville. You've got Lance from the Bobby Roberts side, which is more of the, heritage country side of things. You've got Kurt Motley, previously at Paradigm, the institution that is Toby Keith and everything around it. And we've recently added Greg Janice, who ran the private and corporate booking business at Paradigm for 13 years.
Was Greg in Nashville?
Who just joined us in Nashville as well. So, 4 very senior, experienced leaders in that office, but each from pretty different places.
And a great team under them that's coming
Right.
up. I mean, Justin Hill, you just see it.
Yeah, we really do. I think Nashville is one of those places where we've only begun to scratch the surface of what we're capable of down there, too.
Yeah, there's some cool energy in that office. Both Justins, like super cool things going on.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think both on the country front and on the pop contemporary side of things, there's a lot to be done in Nashville still.
In New York, that office is obviously a machine. I mean, Ken Vermeglish is a monster agent.
Yeah, he is. And it's been a lot of fun getting to know Ken on a personal level, but on a professional level, I think that the reunion of Guns N' Roses couldn't have happened at a better time, and it's sort of paralleling the acquisition of UTA and the agency group, because obviously, touring and bringing back a band of that stature requires the efforts and the expertise of so many different people. And when you start talking about filming documentaries and revitalizing social media and all the things that come along with an event of that scale, and now into its second year, Ken, I think, has benefited from having an entire team around him and around the band to do all those things. If Guns N' Roses are the ideal example of the superstar act, then, hand in hand in that New York office, what David Galea has been able to accomplish with ex-ambassadors as an emerging act who are now, fully in the mainstream eye, and everything they've been able to do as a result of connecting with the rest of the company. I mean, they're both picture-perfect examples of what the entire agency can do when it puts its mind to it.
Yeah, you team that up with a Jeremy Holgerson and a Tim Bohr, and you got something going on.
Yeah, it's a great crew, no doubt about it.
In LA, have you guys consolidated to one office?
We have, yeah. Unfortunately, it took a little longer than we would have hoped. We just simply didn't have enough space in the UTA office in LA and Beverly
The doorway
Hills.
is just not tall enough for Christian?
Yeah, exactly. Those guys were spending a lot of time in the UTA office, and we had, a lot of our meetings on a weekly basis there, but it was November of this past year. So it's been a good 6 months now since we've all been under the same roof in Beverly Hills. And it's nice. I mean, it's one thing to be a part of the company, but it's a whole other thing to, be a part and actually be in the same physical space as everyone. And that happened in LA in November, and it actually just happened in New York in March. I mean, ironically, in New York, the original UTA office, UTA acquired a company called the NS Beanstalk Agency a couple of years ago that represents a lot of the most prolific broadcasters in the business. The Anderson Cooper, Bill O'Reilly type. I don't know if we need to talk about Bill O'Reilly, but the Anderson Cooper level folks in that business, and then the agency group office. But all three of those offices in New York were on the same block, and we were able to consolidate all of them this past March into the building where the original UTA office is. So now we have 3 floors, all built out, beautiful space in New York. So nice to say that in LA and New York we're all together under one roof now, finally.
Which is not a small thing. I know Paradigm's been having problems with that too, as they keep acquiring agencies, and that company's been building. They've had 3 or 4 offices in some cases in markets, but that's the challenge of figuring out how to incorporate everybody in the same space, because you want the cohesiveness of the thought process of trading resources, right?
You absolutely do, and I think that
the collaboration.
We've benefited from the fact that when we acquired the agency group, literally within the first hour after the acquisition was announced, the receptionists at the agency group offices were answering the phones UTA. So there was never a transitional period where the agency group was their thing and UTA was another thing. From the very beginning, it was very much made clear that we were one company. And, while the physical transition may have taken a little bit longer in LA and New York, at least, the working environment and the collaborative way in which we were going to do business was in place from day one.
Well, that was an interesting decision, because the agency group was an international brand in the industry that was really built up, and UTA was a North American brand. So to give up what you guys had built, what the agency group had built in Toronto and across Canada and in the UK, and for Neil, really across the world,
right.
That had to be a decision, because I got to imagine there was talks about UTA / the agency group and different things with the world brand and stepping into that, but just discarding the other brand and building straight into the UTA brand, had to be a big decision to get rid of that beautiful credibility they had built for
it was. I think the nice part was that everybody from the outset of the conversations realized that the common ground that the companies had was really strong, and that there was a very mutual entrepreneurial spirit that both of the companies shared. And I think that the initial ambivalence may have been, well, the agency group works where it's almost every man for himself, that one guy's got his clients and one woman's got her clients, and you sort of do everything for your individual clients, whereas UTA is very much a collaborative, there's a team of agents around each client setup. But what we learned as soon as we started talking to the agency group guys, was that they wanted that collaborative teamwork environment. They knew that in order to really be the caliber of agents and grow the clients to the extent that they wanted to, that they needed to be in that collaborative environment. And I think that foundational driving factor was really what brought everybody together very quickly and made the transition, I think as harmonious and seamless as it possibly could have been.
And you got guys like Dave Shapiro now on the team, who one of the best minds in alternative touring by far. Yeah. Sitting in a meeting now where essentially you were one-man music department a couple years ago. How does those resources change your game?
In every way. I mean, I think that the music expertise that these guys from the agency group bring is next level. And all of these guys and girls from the agency group come from a very genuine place of passion for music. And they've all fought and scrapped and clawed to represent the clients that they have for so long and so effectively. And it's a perfect marriage of that with a company in UTA that brings all these other resources to the table, in every other aspect of the entertainment business you could imagine, and didn't have a big music practice to boast, but had a lot of pent-up energy and passion for music that we shared with the agency group folks. So you see, all of these folks from film and television and digital and brand partnerships, these different aspects of UTA, these agents who love music that finally now have this base of clients to really take that love out on and to work on behalf of. It's a really nice thing.
You guys have kind of exploded, not just in the music department world. Comedy obviously had a huge step forward. Doug Edley coming over from Gersh originally, and then you had a handful more of your CAA friends join you as well.
Right.
So killing it with your comedy roster, just amazing. I mean, just alone with what you guys have on that side, you could build an agency off of.
Yeah, you absolutely could. I mean, and the fun part about comedy is it is so comprehensive that, the representation business on the comedy side is not just the touring aspect that some of us may be more familiar with, but the writers, directors, and actors and producers all on the film and television side also, they all play in the same sandbox now. And to be able to represent so many of those people under one roof and be able to, package them together, whether it's on films, TV shows, or tours, just puts us in a really advantaged position.
So adding people like Nick Nucifora to the team adds a whole nother layer of industry relationships on a whole different side. You're talking about those comics and those producers and that different world. Does that add things to be able to go pitch and act when you're saying, come in, we have this and this and this? There's all these different opportunities.
Absolutely does. And Nick is also a guy with a lot of gravitas on the touring side of things, obviously. And it's not as if comedy touring and music touring are mutually exclusive at all. And there's a lot of overlap of our businesses.
Although anyone that saw Nirvana tour with Bobcat Goldthwait in the Melvin probably would tell you it should be.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, Nick and those folks were at UTA before the agency group acquisition. And to have Nick as a running buddy of mine in terms of how we were approaching potential music clients and being able to go and have meetings with significant folks in the touring business, he and I both had relationships, albeit from comedy and music respectively, was a really nice thing from the very beginning. To add to it, he's just a great guy and an old friend because we'd worked at CA together for so long.
He's a funny dude.
He is indeed.
You guys have an amazing digital department. It's probably one of the more standout digital departments in the entire business, bar none.
It is, yeah.
As far as where social media is going and digital media, as far as the podcasts and the YouTubes and those new celebrities that have new careers, you guys are really out front with that.
Yeah, I think we were first to market with it. It's been, I want to say it was 2006 when UTA Digital was founded. Brent Weinstein is the guy who runs UTA Digital and is a really brilliant visionary guy. And to have a business in digital that extends from representation of video game and app developers to social media advisory to
and that video game stuff, that's real business now. It's crossing over into our side.
It's massive business. Yeah, not only is it
selling
crossing
out arenas for people to watch play video games. Yeah. It sounds like the dorkiest thing ever, but people are.
It's massive.
These are arena grosses.
Yeah, I mean that, and obviously the film business as well. As you see video game properties being streamed up into massive movies. Again, the social media advisory business, the representation of digital and social influencers. Kids who are becoming stars off of YouTube, Snapchat, Musical.ly now, things like that. Having people in place who deal on our side exclusively with emerging platforms, virtual reality, those type of things. People who are working day to day with interesting new startups. It brings a whole wealth of creativity and relationships to the table that we can use on behalf of our clients, our more traditional clients, musicians or actors or directors, what have you. I think it allows us to be that much more intelligent about the way that we approach our day-to-day business, whether it's getting on board with a client early on and being strategic with them about how to build audience via social media, or it's being able to leverage data and analytics and be smart about how you route or market a tour. But having all those people on our team, I think just makes us that much more smart.
Okay, now speaking of smart, it can't be the dumbest thing in the world to have your office 10 feet from the Live Nation office in Beverly Hills. Like, that's got to be a really nice thing when you're having trouble figuring it out or whatever. You can literally walk next door and talk to Rapino.
It's helpful, but it's also, you also can't avoid them when you need to avoid them also.
Why would an agent ever need to avoid a promoter?
It's a good thing, honestly. And, we obviously do a lot of business with them, as we do with, all the other promoters out there. But, it makes for a nice little power block there, I think, between ourselves and Live Nation and Playboy for the moment, although decreasingly so as time goes on, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's not as cool as it used to be.
It's not. It's an obvious and easy talking point when someone walks in the building. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's a story there. Okay, so that's a great history lesson on UTA and what's going on, and I appreciate that you can speak so fluently about all the different departments that are under that roof since you've been there now several years and you were watching it all develop as it's kind of exploded in your tenure there. But let's talk about your career and what's going on in your world. I mean, Muse alone makes you a major agent.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the type of thing that I was really hoping would happen when I made the move, and I had
it's really nice that Marcia decided that you should have them.
Yeah, of course. The fact of the matter is, I had a great experience at CAA and had the opportunity to work with some phenomenal clients there. And, the hope was that when I came to UTA that as a result of not only having great agents on the music side of things, but having real players from the other aspects of the business who wanted to be involved with music, that we would be able to attract superstar clients. And I think people like Mariah Carey, Chris Brown, they're all examples of that. They're all artists who are attracted to being at a place like UTA because there's essentially nothing that they can imagine that they want to do in the entertainment business, maybe beyond, that we don't have someone who has expertise in that can help them do. And, while, I'm obviously incredibly happy and proud to say that I represent artists like that, it's not something I could do by myself. And, I'm fully cognizant of the fact that it requires a hardworking and smart team around us as music agents to get it done.
You guys have developed the infrastructure like any other major agency to play the game at that level, though.
Yeah, we have. And I think that, quite frankly, I think we're doing it better in terms of our ability to access the other parts of the company. UTA by design is a smaller agency in terms of the number of employees and agents that are there. And I think as a result of that, the connectivity between the different divisions is that much more strong. And frankly, for a long time, prior to my being there, UTA had to really, scrap and claw its way up the totem pole to being a peer of CAA or WME on the film and TV side of the business. And the way in which they scrapped and clawed was by all really doing it together, where everyone across the company was collaborative about it. And that's been the same model on the music side of things so far.
Okay, now you guys are now working on more of a territorial.
Right. That's
a big change. It's something you guys have implemented since the agency group guys came over.
Yeah, I'm happy to say that. I think it was almost 6 months to the day after the acquisition that we were able to put that in place. But it's a nod to the the collaborative nature of the business. This is not an every man for himself, every woman for himself situation. But
you bought a bunch of agents when you guys took that acquisition over that were all entrepreneurs that booked their own acts because they were based on an agency that believed that you could sell your own band better than you can sell someone else's band. And they were all trained. That was built into them so well. Especially guys like Jack and Ralph. It's like some of the guys that had been there for a longer time, or Steve Call, it's like those guys were really, really, that's burnt into their world by Neil.
It definitely was. And I think that ultimately we're advantaged by having agents who have a history of having booked all their own stuff, because unlike someone who may have come up at an agency that only booked territorially, who may have had real expertise in certain parts of the country or the world, but not others. The guys and girls of the agency group had all booked everywhere and knew everyone. So now they may be focused in one territory, but they understand the comprehensive business. So while they may be focusing day to day on their territory...
But won't they lose that over time? They'll lose those other relationships,
I don't think so, because, Are you
going to rotate?
We will rotate, for sure. But I think...
Prison card mentality. Exactly. You guys are getting too close.
Can't do that. But I think, it's not as if in a territorial system, responsible agent is not allowed to talk to agents that are outside of the territory that he or she may book. So, I think that the relationships we're still doing our best to take advantage of the best relationships that we have across the board within the agency. And I think it's also, to be honest, the territorial system provides a really nice check and balance to the A&R and signing process also, because we don't have aspirations of being the agency that goes out there and signs everything. We want to be judicious about...
Which is a little bit of the vibe for the agency group.
Right. But again, remember that those were agents who were, at the end of the year, eating what they killed, and more volume and more booking meant more money. And, the UTA business model is much more of a star-making mentality, where we want to sign artists, if they're young especially, who we really believe that it's going to be worth our while to invest a lot of resources in.
Seems like the beginning of Jerry Maguire to me.
Maybe so.
Okay, so you guys have got a new system over there, and it's fallen into place. Is this all the way up on the bigger stuff too? Or are you booking the dates when it comes to
No, it is. It is all the way up. There's a system in place for clubs. There's a system in place for PACs and theaters, and there's a system in place for arenas and amphitheaters. Obviously, as we all know, at the arena and amp level of things, there's a lot more tour deals in play. And, the tour deal sort of implicitly, ends up being its own thing, and it's harder to work within territories there. Although, I have acts that are in tour deals where I still want to be the leader in the routing of the tour, although we may be in a deal with Live Nation or AEG, and the territorial system will then go and hold dates and route the tour.
Mitch Rose was talking about that earlier on the podcast, where it doesn't matter if it's a tour deal with AEG or Live Nation or who it may be. He's still going to route the tour and route the venue and work that out.
I absolutely
he's in charge
agree.
Of his tours.
Yeah. As the agent, our responsibility is still to the artist. And I frankly think it's lazy agenting to do a tour deal and then just throw your hands up and your feet up and wait for the promoter to come back with a routing and deals and ticket prices and expenses and all that sort of stuff. Like, that's our job as agents. And while the promoter may be more of a partner in the deal, in a tour deal scenario, they don't have to answer to the artist, and we do.
So we're not the babies of the industry anymore. We've got our years in, and unfortunately, we don't get to be the babies that take advantage of that. We're just starting out. We're still learning, which is actually kind of nice because we make more money. But who are the guys coming up that you're seeing that are the superstars of this business that you're excited about?
The agents, you mean?
Agents, promoters, record people, whatever. Who are the executives that you're seeing that are coming up that you're really impressed with?
Well, look, I think we've got an amazing core of young agents at our shop. We've got guys like Emilio Grajava and Chad Lehner in our LA office who, I think are emerging superstars. A guy like, he's not young, he's older than me, but a guy like Rob Zaffarelli in Toronto, who is
City and Colors agent.
Yeah, who is just a badass. We've got some young guys, Jules Delatra, James Wright, Greg Lowe in our London office who are international superstars. It's a fun time. You're absolutely right in that I think that our generation is taking the torch, and it adds even more fuel to my fire and even more resolve to my making the move to UTA, because it is fun to be of our generation and be in a position where we can lead and have decision-making power. Because I think the music business is a lot different than it was 15 years ago when we all started, 15, 20 years ago when we all started in it. And while obviously we all respect the experience and wisdom of our mentors and the people who guided us through the beginnings of our careers, I think that we see the business differently than they do. And I like being at a place now where we aren't constrained by tradition and history. It's not as if UTA music is a place where it's been done this way for 20 years, so we've got to keep doing it this way. It hasn't. We get to kind of make it up and decide how it should be moving forward based on the way the business is now.
Before I let you go, there's got to be a handful of acts you're excited about. You're a music guy. Who are you excited about? Who would you recommend people watch? Get on the train now.
We represent a band called Laney, Lany, who to me are poster children. They're not children, but poster children for the new music method. They're an amazing three-piece pop alternative act. They live in LA. They've managed to develop a massive following, both online and from a touring standpoint. I mean, we sold out 2 Fondas in LA well in advance as part of a 30-plus date tour 9 months ago, back last fall. And their first single literally just went to radio 2 weeks ago, and the album won't even come out until the end of June. But a band that's managed to create a legitimate fan base off the back of having an idea of who they are and communicating it to their fans, be it through social media and newsletters, and an authentic and genuine personality. And a band that I think will be in arenas in a year as a result of it.
In a year?
I think so.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know what I'm listening to on the flight home.
Yeah, they're amazing. And we also represent, and I work with them again, but a young guy named Jacob Sartorius.
There's nothing wrong with you being excited about your acts.
No, I am very excited about my acts. And Jacob's a 15-year-old from D.C. who's the biggest star kid to have popped off of Musical.ly, the lip-syncing app, and is now out there selling. I mean, we're going to sell out a Will Turn in L.A. next month, and selling out 1,500, 2,000 capacity venues everywhere around the country, as in addition to the UK, Europe, and now Australia, off the back of making great original music.
So you've got 2 acts that you're really excited about, and one that you're pretty sure is going to an arena within a year.
I think so. I mean, I think by the end of 18, at least.
Are there some open markets there for me?
There sure as hell are.
Cool. I want in.
Let's do that. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm personally at least trying to be pretty smart about the developing acts that I take on. I only want to work with the ones that I feel like I can invest full energy in and help take all the way. So those are 2 of them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Really appreciate it, man. I'm a fan and really honored and happy to be a part of it.
Promoter 101, hanging out with Jbeau Lewis.
Thanks, Dan.
Jbeau certainly seems laser focused on continuing to build the UTA brand. What an amazing, exciting time for those guys.
Jim Glancy, Barry Presents on Promoter 101.
Of course, it's not Promoter 101 without the tweets of the week. Let's see what Dan said on Twitter. When someone has failed at both their personal and professional life offers me unsolicited advice.
Free advice is always welcome, but if your house is falling in, should you really be my life coach?
When an act announces a reunion tour and you had no idea that they ever broke up.
I'm not sure that I did or didn't know that LA Guns had broken up, but much more to the point, I just didn't give a shit. And I truly doubt there was any kind of demand by their fan base for a reunion. I don't know.
First of all, I don't even know who LA Guns are, and that's serious. I work in the music business, so if they ever broke up, I'm sure I wouldn't care about them.
80s glam rock at its most mediocre, my friend.
Sounds like it.
Moving on.
When you call friends of the music industry and are forced to listen to one of the worst jazz tracks ever as hold music.
You know, I know you're thinking this was me calling you, Luke, but this was not a Promoter 101 tweet about you. But it was fucking painful.
Hey, I will note this because conference call lines and hold things have been something that I would love to do a manager 101 on. We invest, I don't know what it costs a year. I'm sure it's like 20 or $40 a month. I think for like 5 or 6 lines in conference call lines where you just dial into a number and are automatically placed into it. Enough with these bullshit 10-digit number conference call lines. I'm absolutely sick of them. I definitely missed one conference call today or the beginning of one because I was trying to mistype, 7 letters, picking up a number from my phone. They're the worst things in the world, Dan. So more so than a jazz track, I think there needs to be a Promoter 101 about, ending this oppressive reign of 10-digit dial-in codes for conference call lines.
When will it stop, Luke? When?
I have no idea, man. I'm just trying to, liberate the people from having to memorize fucking 10-digit codes. When you spend weeks building and routing a tour, then the agent loses the act.
And I feel for the agent, but more importantly, I feel for me because I spent a lot of time building the tour, routing it, getting all the avails, cutting all the deals, and man, this is the life of an entrepreneur. And you take the risk, and sometimes you get fucked right at the starting line.
That does it for Promoter 101 Tweets of the Week. Make sure you follow Dan on Twitter. He's at The Jew.
And you can follow Luke at Luke Pierce, and you should because he's got some topical shit going on.
Hi, it's Phil Ernst from Madison Square Garden, and this is Promoters 101.
We have all had our guesses on who these guys are, but now we finally know the voices behind Agent versus Promoter. They belong to Paradigm's Joe Atamian and Majestic Live's Scott Leslie, and they're here for us now.
The duo finally breaks their silence about this long-running music industry prank. They're here now on Promoter 101.
Promoter 101, we're very excited. The world has finally found out who Agent versus Promoter, and we've got them both on the podcast.
Breaking.
Mr. Joe Atamian and Mr. Scott Leslie, welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Man, you guys are the original. There would be no, smart-ass remarks about the industry, as far as I'm concerned, anywhere on social media if it wasn't for you guys. Legendary, epic prank.
We just brought it to the forefront. We feel it was probably going on behind closed doors before us.
You kids get off my lawn.
Exactly.
Awesome. I mean, it seems like a lot of people had different ideas of who it might have been. I know there was a moment that I was in Joe's office a couple of years ago where I asked the question, but when he said it wasn't him, I actually bought that it wasn't. But Scott, at one point, you actually were talking to me about who you thought it might be. It's like, dude, talk about throwing a dog off its scent.
But as you said, being able to be anonymous is what allowed it to be fun, and what allowed it to be funny, because half the fun that we had was talking about these crazy things that were happening and then having to wait to post them because it would out us if we posted them right away, or having to switch it so that the agent was the one that did it instead of the promoter doing it to throw people off the scent. It was fun to be able to be a satirical critique of the industry, but at the same time, it was the anonymity that allowed us to be able to have the creative license to do it.
Yeah, and Steiny, when you were in my office that day, I think that might have been the closest I've ever come to somebody catching on, because you were definitely grilling me on it.
That was kind of fun. The look on your face, the silence. It was just like, I don't know. It was kind of, we were in the middle of talking about Sturgill. I was like, dude, we got to have this out. Like, dude, what the fuck? I'm like, you got to be Agent, man. You got to be. You're like,
yeah, it's
my
tough.
office even knew. I mean, this was a very closely held state secret.
It's an amazing thing because the jokes are hilarious, and whether you were the butt of them or you were sitting there going, fuck yeah, I've totally always thought that, you guys were spot on so much of the industry and made hard days so much better, just going, shit, totally.
Yeah, it's funny. There's actually been a couple comments about it since it's come out of some younger folks in the industry that it was a learning tool at the same time, so... It's all for the kids.
We do it all for the kids. Now, has anybody, now that it's been out, been like, dude, motherfucker, that was me that you were fucking with? That's not cool. Have you gotten any of that, or has everybody been a good sport about it?
I haven't directly. I don't know if Scott has, but I do want to go on record here and apologize to Jeff Corden, because he's the one person that I've heard is angry about our 40 under 40 post, because he was mentioned in Stacey George's profile.
Right on. That's he's a good sport. I imagine he'll get over it.
Nobody has come out and been angry about it. I think everybody has felt pretty. I tend to just shoot pretty far from the hip in terms of making sure that nobody could really think that it was directly about them.
I thought that was pretty good, because I think half the people on that list were well over 40, which I thought was my favorite part of that list.
Yeah, we don't do very much fact checking over at Agent vs. Promoter.
Right. For instance, I just want to go on record as saying, much to Joe's chagrin after he wrote it, that both Columbia, Missouri and Madison, Wisconsin actually do have airports. They actually function. They have flights and everything. It's great.
Don't believe it.
A very Fred Flintstone vibe where everybody's running off the end of the runway together and jumping in the air, just imaging with this right now. All right, so now that you guys have been outed, is there going to be a way that you guys are going to be able to keep the humor going? Because, I mean, I'm addicted.
Actually, taking it back to the roots via the Tumblr, where you can ask anonymous questions and have people submit content through the Tumblr with a link to a GIF or a GIF. I don't even know how to say that word in all these years I've been doing this. Have them submit anonymous content to us and post it. And, you know, in all reality, we'll probably still be posting a lot of our own stuff, but at least we can have plausible deniability and point the finger and say it was an anonymous person making the post if we get any flack for it.
Cool. So everybody will just know that you guys will be monitoring and hosting the site, but won't necessarily be coming from you anymore.
Correct.
Exactly. It'll be curated content, and we'll still be able to post some ourselves to be able to make sure that we're still having fun with it. And everybody else will get to join in the fun too now. And so hopefully that keeps our industry just a little bit more cautious when going hard in the paint at people.
Are there any posts that you guys had made that, like, before they went up, you guys were like, you know what? No, that's too hard. I'm not putting that up. That's going too far.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there were.
It's cool. I love the idea that you guys were playing shadow games with it a little bit. That you guys were trading back and forth some of the promoter versus agent posts, where some of you would be posting as one versus the other to kind of break it up and hide it a little bit. That's awesome. You guys certainly kept it hidden for a very long time. It was what 4+ years?
Yeah, almost the day actually.
About 4 years.
Yeah.
Today or yesterday would have been our 4-year anniversary. I think what was always frustrating for Joe and I is that when we pretended to be the other side, I think the posts did better. I think they got more interaction when I pretended to be the agent and Joe pretended to be promoter.
That is true.
Finding the right gift that goes along with what you're thinking must have just been the hardest part of that. Like, once you had the concept of the post, but like finding something that just nailed it perfectly.
Well, it wasn't finding the right Seinfeld thing. I mean, I knew in my head what I wanted, but finding it was the hard thing.
You know what's funny, Scott? We've never talked about this, I don't think. But the way I worked was I would actually just go on those apps that have all the GIFs on it and find something and then actually work backwards and just come up with a situation. That's how I did most of mine.
So you basically started with the punchline?
Started with the punchline and worked backwards.
I did that sometimes too. Sometimes you just found something and it was just, oh man, that's too perfect.
Awesome. I like that. It's just like that backwards.
Steiny, however you get there, it's the end result that matters, right?
Hey, you guys certainly got the laughs. I mean, I got to tell you, man, it's just like some of those days, it's like if you get mentioned in agent versus promoter, I don't care if you're getting slapped around as if you're Beavis and Butthead or not. It's like you're being mentioned in fucking agent versus promoter. Like, that's some cool ass shit right there.
Did we mention any names? I don't think we ever did.
Ironically, the day of like one of my biggest shows ever, Jason flew in for Scorpions Queensryche here in Seattle, and he was staying at the house, and I woke up to him cracking up, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I was like, what the fuck? And I'm like, slacking him. He's in the next room. He's like, dude, check out the link. And you guys had posted this Beavis and Butthead thing where it was like me not getting approval for an offer from Jason. It was the funniest thing, but it was like, what a great way to start a sold-out arena show day. It was like hilarious, man. I loved it.
Actually, it was funny because one of the things that we were trying to do at one point, I think for one of our pranks was, before Joe did this to himself, was to figure out a way that we could have gotten what happened to Joe, but have it be through Jason, so that you would have thought that Jason was the promoter. And we thought that would have been a really fun joke to play for a little while.
That would have been funny, except I know that Jason would never spend that much effort to do anything that wasn't involved with pulling off a show. It's just never going to happen.
I think you're giving us too much credit for how much effort this took.
Right.
Everybody's like, now that this is done, you're going to have so much more free time. I was like, how long do you think that this took us to do? I was like, this was 2 minutes a day.
Yeah, that's been my go-to line. People are like, where'd you find the time for it? I'm like, well, honestly, if you looked at the timestamps, you'd probably get a very intimate view on my bathroom schedule at work.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I think I speak for the entire industry. Well, I thank you guys for the hours of laughter, regardless of how little time it took you. It was amazing, and looking forward to you guys finding a way to keeping that going.
Definitely, man.
The laughter exceeded the output that we had to put into it. That's probably a good thing.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being on Promoter 101. Agent versus Promoter live. Awesome. Stoked, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Hey, hats off to both Joe and Scott. Well done prank.
Hi, this is Jason Kupperman from Paradigm, and you're listening to Promoter 101.
Celebrating some birthdays this week.
Monday, road managers turned stand-up comic, Colorado's own Matt Need.
On Tuesday, wishing a happy birthday to our friend, no longer in the music business, but still in tech world, Christina Willender, Ryan Green, Aaron Rush, and UTA's Lance Roberts.
Wednesday, Greg Patterson.
On Thursday, wishing a happy birthday to Martin Adkins, Allison Carter, Entourage Management, and Alabama's manager, Mr. Tony Conway, and Trisha Freeman. Happy birthday.
Friday, APA's Adam Vuski and Scott Peng from ICM.
On Saturday, wishing a happy birthday to John Panel and Tom Mewald.
Sunday, MPI's Joshua Knight and Live Nation's Brian Traeger.
A happy birthday to everybody from the gang at Promoter 101.
Hey, this is Kevin French, and I'm on Promoter 101.
This week, we're pleased to have two of the industry vets, Danforth Stephen Riff, as well as the Horseshoes Jeff Cohen. Please note that we started talking to Stephen, and then Jeff got added in, and it was just too cool not to have them both in the same conversation as once, as they both know that market so well. Please enjoy.
Canadian Music Week, we are with the iconic independent promoter, Stephen Riff. Thank you so much for joining us.
Steiny, thanks for having me.
Riff in the house.
In the house!
So, in a market that's dominated by Live Nation as far as the arena shows across the entire country, you guys have got a real foothold in this market now.
Indeed, we do. I think we have a real foothold, and I think there's quite a few other promoters in the market that have a real foothold. You know, it's a really big city, and there's a lot of players here, and everyone kind of does their thing.
Okay, did you want to promote your competitors, or should we talk about you?
No, we'll talk about us. But I mean, I always like to acknowledge all the other talent in the market as well, especially in a city like this, because I don't really think that Live Nation is the dominant promoter here. You know, I think that they're the big bear and the big machine, but I don't think they're the dominant promoter in this market.
Who would you say is?
I would say Embrace is the dominant promoter. I would say Collective is a dominant promoter. I would say, you know, Inc. could be a dominant promoter at a certain level in the electronic space.
Is anybody else doing arena shows besides Live Nation and AEG?
Embrace does some arena shows. Collective does some arena shows. Inc. does some arena shows.
Okay, so there are players in the game. Okay.
For sure. Yeah,
on all levels.
For sure, yeah.
Okay. So you guys have some venues, particularly the Danforth is the jewel.
Danforth is our crown jewel. Danforth is a 1,500 cap venue. Well, it's 1,427 general admission, and it's 1,145 seats seated.
Okay, and everything plays there. I noticed when I was in the venue the other night for Papa Roach that Melissa Etheridge is playing there. And shit, just between those two acts, what other venue on the tour is hosting both of them? That is some diverse booking right there.
Serious spectrum right there.
Yeah,
I mean, Etheridge to Papa Roach.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Danforth filled a void that the city didn't have before. So there were, shows were kind of, high-profile shows, lower-profile shows, mid-level artists were kind of playing all over the city. And we didn't have, a big GA ballroom that was fresh and new. And the Danforth opened, and it really just took on this huge life of its own. I think that, geographically, it's an incredible location. It's on the subway line, so people don't need to drive to the Danforth. And it's surrounded by incredible bars and restaurants. And that was a huge thing for people. Like, the Phoenix Concert Theater is an incredible room in the city. I love seeing shows there. I love promoting shows there. I love the Phoenix. I've been going there since I was like, a small kid. but it's in a strange neighborhood, and there's not a lot of restaurants around. There's not a lot of bars in the neighborhood. There's not a lot of access from public transportation. So people maybe shy away from going there, and artists have really artists have also embraced, pardon the pun, but artists have really embraced the Danforth just because of its geographic location, I think. So the room is it's taken off. I mean, we've had Justin Bieber play in there. We've had Rihanna play in there. The Tragically Hip have played in there. It's just been an amazing 5-year run.
That's incredible. So you're not sticking to any particular genre. You're booking talent, and you're booking good talent.
We book anything in there.
Now, you let everybody come in the room, right? It's an open room, and you let your competitors come in.
It is an open room.
That's a big decision to make when you're opening a room like that you're going to be willing to allow other people to play in your pond.
Well, I think that this market, I mean, every room in this market is open, unlike other cities like, New York, that was dominated by Bowery, let's say, or, Jam in Chicago that owned a lot of theaters. I mean, Toronto's always been an open room city. So we just felt that the Danforth Music Hall and Embrace are really two separate businesses. And I think that, we didn't want to set a precedent where it was like, this is just an Embrace room. And, we didn't want to shut out bands or shut out agents and managers from using that room. If a manager and agent wants to play with Live Nation or they want to play with Collective, we want their business in the room. I mean, we're a bar, we're a nightclub, we're a theater.
It's all about the per heads, yeah.
Right.
So how many shows a year as Embrace are you guys promoting?
Probably with everything we're doing in multiple markets, 750 shows, events, let's call it, per year.
What other markets are you primarily working in?
So we do a lot of shows in Toronto. We do a number of shows in London, Ontario, a number of shows in Ottawa, a number of shows now in Montreal. We recently partnered or acquired a promotion company in Montreal called Neon Productions. So we're doing quite a few shows with them there. We do a number of shows in Miami. We do some stuff in Winnipeg, starting to move a little bit west right now. Do stuff there.
So short of Alberta and parts of BC, you're doing all of Canada.
We are.
Yeah.
We're expanding, that's for sure.
How do you get your start in all this?
Oh.
Well, it's got to have something to do with your love for the Dead.
Well, I mean, yeah, a lot of it has to do with the Grateful Dead, that's for sure. I mean, I was a music kid from the time I could walk. I grew up in a really musical family. My grandparents were really into music. My parents were really into music. Quite a few aunts and uncles that were really into music.
The Jews are a musical folk.
Yes, we are very musical. We're not good at many things. We're good at the music business, I guess.
And we can work an Excel sheet.
And growing up and having a last name like Riff,
it certainly works.
Kind of worked. And people don't even believe that that's really my last name. When I meet people in the music business, they're like, "You changed your name to work in this industry." I'm like, "No, I didn't do that. I swear." I kind of knew when I saw the Grateful Dead for my first time in Hamilton in 1990. I knew that I needed to be in the music business, and I was 13 years old. I just had my bar mitzvah. Music was always my thing. I worked in entertainment because I was a magician. As a child, at 13 or 14 years of age, I was doing birthday parties for other kids. As a magician, I was always entertaining. So I knew at a really young age that I wanted to be in the business. And I spent a number of years on the road traveling and seeing the Grateful Dead and then seeing bands like Phish and becoming really connected to the inner sanctum of, the Phish world and the people in the organization. And so I started, kind of trying to get into that music space. Before I was a promoter, I made music videos for a long time. I was an executive producer, and I started a film company called 235 Films in Toronto. We were really successful. We won tons of Much Music Video Awards and MTV Awards. And so I started producing music videos first.
Is this like the Hype Williams years? When about is this?
Okay, in 1998-99, myself and two friends started a graphic design company in Toronto. It was called CMYNK originally, Creative Magenta, Yellow and Black. We were kind of like a 360 company that was doing websites, packaging, brochures. I say it like it's really fascinating what we were doing, but we were pretty cutting edge.
For 98, that's Flash is cutting edge.
Yeah, one of the first big clients that we had was Fila Canada. And we built Fila International's first ever Flash website.
So the footwear?
Fila shoes, that's correct, yeah. So at that time, I had a business partner who was also a post-production animator. And we started getting jobs in the post-production animation space by a local company in Toronto who was a large music video producer. And we kept getting job after job after job. And then they started coming to us being like, "Oh, hey, I've got a record label and they want a video with a bunch of animation, but they also want a Flash website done. Can you do that at the same time?" So we would do that. And they'd be like, "We want some CD packaging done for them as well. Can you do this for them?"
End to end.
Right. And so what happened is the owner of that company kind of saw very early on his own 360 model. And he decided that he wanted to acquire our business. so he could have this all done in-house, and he could start going out to the Canadian record labels and pitching this stuff to them, where he could, he could pitch the music video, the packaging, the website, the DVD-ROM. We did a number of DVD-ROMs back then. And they acquired our company. We moved downtown. We changed our name from CMYMK to Transistor, and we started doing music videos. I really didn't know what I was doing at the time, to be honest with you, because I didn't really have any background in animation. I didn't really have background in graphic design. I was really just like a glorified...
Trial by fire, huh?
Yeah, and I didn't have any background in production. I was just like a glorified salesman.
Yeah.
And really what I was doing on that side of the business was I was going out and selling ourselves to other companies like Fila. So we got acquired by this company, and I start kind of PAing on music video sets and just kind of learning the ins and the outs of the business. My business partner at the time and a couple of the other guys, this company that acquired us, we very early on, while being there, we were probably a year and a half into our partnership, we all realized that we were miserable where we were. We weren't happy with the current management of the business that had bought us, and we decided that we wanted to go out on our own and start our own music video company. So we did an overnight dine and dash. Myself, 3 other guys from that business, and then 2 other guys from outside companies went overnight, rented a space, and started up our music video company. And we went out, our first job that we did, I think was, we did a video for something corporate. I think that was the first video that we got out of the gate when we came out of there. And it was a big job. It was like $125,000 US, I think, at the time, which was a massive...
These are the days of the $1 million Hype Williams video.
Well, this is 2002.
Okay,
or 2001, 2002-ish. Yeah. No, there were still a lot of big videos that were happening, actually. We were still doing jobs that were like, 150, 200K US. I had already started my relationships with record labels in Los Angeles and New York and in London. We represented, when we started our company, 4 directors, and within a year, we had about 8 on our roster, including some overseas directors. I had a director from France, and I had a director from LA, and a director from London, England. And I just started hopping on airplanes and just getting myself in front of record labels and just pitching our directors and pitching the fact that record labels could come up here. At the time, they were getting, probably like the exchange rate was like $1.50.
Wow.
So I was pitching the fact that, hey, you can come to Canada, and $100,000 American gets you 150 grand Canadian.
Yeah.
This was all pre 9/11, and pre 9/11, the exchange rate really hadn't flipped yet at that time. We were seeing music videos, $100,000 jobs. We were getting almost 160 grand Canadian for them.
Wow.
So I started bringing just a lot of stuff up to Canada, and I stayed in that business until 2007. The industry was just fizzling out. It was in really, really bad shape.
Yeah.
And we weren't making any money. We could barely pay our bills. And I wasn't happy. I mean, I'm not going to get into all the dirt because we're not really talking about music videos, but I wasn't happy with what I was doing in my life. Dan looks like he wants to say something.
Well, no, I just think it's an interesting thing. Of course, it's hard to sell music videos because there's no one playing them anymore.
Well, in 2005, 2006, certainly that's the end of TRL years. That was the driver.
Well, and even while they had TRL, they were only playing videos for 2 hours after school. For, like the teeny boppers, they were running alternative TV already. Music TV wasn't part of MTV anymore for the most part. Right. It was a special block.
Well, you had VH1, you had the box, you had some other things too, where there was platforms for these things at that time, where it's not like today.
Yeah, but it was limiting and it was closing.
Closing.
To have a bigger share of a smaller market,
right.
The end result is just at some point is going to run out.
The competition was super fierce at that time in the industry too. It was interesting at the end of it is that there was more music video companies that were popping up every single day. Even in Toronto, there were so many of them. I couldn't understand how we were going to stay in business.
Sure.
In Toronto, it just seemed every time we would lose a director at our company, they would go start the next music video company in the city, and then they would get their jobs. So you're right. The music videos weren't being played, but more companies were starting up, and we were seeing that in Los Angeles. We were seeing that in New York. We were seeing that in London, England. It was really, really tough.
Yeah. So the segue out of music videos into promotion was pretty well timed then, in terms of where the business was at, where things were heading, and where you were at personally at that moment.
Yeah, it was well timed, and I just got married, and my wife was she just knew that I just wasn't happy with what I was doing anymore. And she knew that I wanted to do the live thing more than anything. And so I left the business pretty much again. I did an overnight dine and dash where my partners owed me a ton of money. My partners owed a bunch of our contractors or suppliers in Toronto a ton of money. And I just didn't want to be attached to it. And I literally just packed my shit up overnight on a weekend. I went in there with my dad and my best friend on a Sunday night, took all my furniture, all my artwork, all my everything out of the office. I was just I'm out of here. I'm not doing this anymore. So I left and I sat around for about 3 or 4, it was a little more than about 6 months. I tried to do a bunch of things. I tried to bring a chicken wing restaurant from America to Canada.
That didn't stick?
It didn't stick. I tried to do it actually with our current general manager of the Danforth Music Hall, Michael Sherman.
What was the chain?
We were trying to bring the Anchor Bar, which is the home and the inventor of the Buffalo Chicken Wing. We were trying to buy the rights for Canada.
Really?
Yes. We worked on that for close to a year. So before I even left the music video business, I was already working on that.
It's funny because industry-wise, we had the same concept. Jason Zink and David Britz and Luke and me and a couple other people were talking about bringing hot chicken to other markets too. We wanted to franchise Hattie B's. And then the one thing that occurred to us was none of us wanted to work in restaurants. We saw that there was money there. We didn't want to be actually behind. Nobody wants to work in a fucking restaurant.
I was blood and guts business.
And I'm kind of the same way that you were, Dan. Like, I didn't really want to be in the business. I saw in Toronto and in Canada that chicken wing restaurants were popping up all over the place. Duff's, which is the second inventor of buffalo chicken wings, or they argued for position, but they had come into Canada. They were expanding. There was Buffalo Wild Wing was coming into Canada. They were expanding. I've seen these chicken wing places pop up all over the place. We spent a year working with the owners of the Anchor Bar. We probably spent about $100,000 on legal. We invested. It was crazy how much time we invested into that industry. That didn't happen. And
so you spent more money on chicken wings than anyone we know.
For sure. And Michael Sherman, our general manager of the Danforth Music Hall at the time, was working at Duff's Chicken Wings in Toronto. So
he knew it in and out. He knew it pretty in and out. There.
He had his own chicken wing there. It was called the Sherman Special. Yeah, so I sat around after doing the music video thing for a long time, and I was bored for about 6 or 7 months. What kind of happened is my current partner, Adam Gill, from Embrace. Adam and I had been working on various projects over the years while I was doing music videos. We tried to put together a Chris Angel tour, and we worked really hard.
Because you love that magic.
Were
you going to open?
Because I love it.
It was going to be Riff and Chris Angel.
Yeah, exactly. Live at the Air Canada Center. So Adam and I were working on projects. We worked on this Chris Angel project for a short period of time. He's going to kill me for even talking about this. And then we worked on this Star Trek project for a long time. We tried to bring that to North America, this Star Trek tour that required 100,000 square feet of space. So Adam and I were working on projects before, we worked together with Embrace. And he was like a one-man show at Embrace in 2007. He had an assistant, and he said, listen, our friend Jeff Bruce, he's coming over to the office, and my good friend Ewan Exall is coming over to work here, and I need some help, and you should come promote concerts. And I was like, well, I don't really know how to promote concerts. And he's like, well...
You didn't know how to make videos, so what the fuck?
I also promoted a bunch of stuff when I was younger, kind of in that same time frame. I promoted a few different jam bands up here because I was in a band in high school, and I would bring these bands up here to play with them because I liked them. So I promoted some stuff, and Adam's just like, well, you should come and promote concerts with me. And I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. He's like, well, just figure it out, And so in 2007, I kind of I guess it was at the end of 2007, I basically set up a desk in an office that was with Adam and Jeff and Ewan. This little we had this it was 10 by 10 office. And I just started plunking away on the phone and just calling people and seeing what I could get done. And then I booked my first show.
In the concert world you come. And I think this is a great place to insert, now that you're now a competitor, Jeff Cohen from the legendary Horseshoe and Collective has joined the conversation.
I just got up and I'm very hungry. All this discussion of chicken wings makes me feel like I'm going to a Buffalo Bills home
pastry.
game.
Help yourself.
Sounds after this podcast, I think those are in order now.
I want to know where all the ribs are and where's the tailgate.
So we were talking about that both companies are technically competitors, but you guys have a very friendly relationship.
I don't think actually we really compete with anybody in Toronto. I think for whatever reason, most people have just left us alone to do whatever we do because we're just niche promoters. So I never really felt that. I think maybe I can't speak because I'm kind of like a dumb executive now. I'm not as much as a talent buyer as I used to be. But my staff would say they very rarely come up against anybody for a show. It seems like the big boys, the Live Nations, the AG, leaves us alone. And we don't really compete much with the other independents. It just seems to be kind of have our agents and bands, and they just kind of go for us for offers. It doesn't really seem like that. You might disagree. I have no idea.
Actually,
but
you started the conversation with the exact same
It's very rare.
I totally agree.
It's very rare that anybody comes to me saying, because I'm the problem solver. I'm the old guy, right? Hey, JC, what can we do? We got this situation. And to be honest with you, my answer the other day, Elliot gave us a phone call and said, I've been pitched one of your bands. I don't know what to do. What should I do? And I said, go back and remind them that we're the promoter. If they say they're moving on or whatever, one of us will do the show and we'll split. We just split everything with everybody all the time. We're really cool that way, and it just keeps us involved. But we just found that's the way we've always been. We're always like, okay, we'll just do it with you. I don't care. We're fine. We just want to do shows. We'll do it with you.
Now you guys have got what I would say is the quintessential
rock room in this town. It's the Horseshoe is a legendary venue, and we think it's
just old.
I think it's awesome.
Like me.
It's one of those rooms that you get and you can feel the vibe. I mean, everyone's played there, and when you're in Toronto, like, you know, if you want something to do, you go there and you're gonna bump into people because it's always a scene.
It has a magical vibe. It has a magical sound on stage. The staff are lifers. It's not a kind of a music venue or a bar where everyone's changing staff all the time. There's a certain familiarity to it. If you look at it with the lights on, it really looks kind of dumpy, to be honest with you. It's certainly not like your prototype modern American House of Blues or anything like that. It doesn't look like that at all. But it just oozes history of live music. And I think the most important thing about it, unlike some venues in North America that rest on their laurels about what they booked in the 70s and 80s. No offense to those people that like have memories of going to the CBGBs and the Bottom Line and that sort of stuff. The Horseshoe's never stood on those laurels.
Sure.
It keeps booking new whatever's happening today. Yes, it will bring in something for your average 45 to 60-year-old once in a while, but really it's booking music for people who are 35 and under now. And that keeps it relevant in a sense.
If I could jump in for 1 second, I couldn't agree with JC any more than that. And I can just tell you, I had a quick little story is that I had a little artist by the name of Sturgill Simpson 2 years ago coming through the market for his first time ever. And the agent, Joe Atamian, who I love, wanted to play the Mod Club for 2 nights. And I said to Joe, we got to go.
That's a wrong mix.
It's
nothing against that club, but not for that artist.
And I said, we got to go play the Shoe, dude, for 2 nights. And he was like, yeah, but that's only 1,000 tickets and we can sell 1,200 tickets to the Mod Club. I said, no, we got to put this in the Shoe. It's just the right place to be. And he was like, really? I said,
is that the name here? Everybody, because it's not the Horseshoe, it's the Shoe. That's what the people call it.
It's kind of the name, yeah. There's the thing that makes Toronto, I think, really unique. No offense to all the other great, live music centers in North America. I think Toronto's in your top 5, right, wherever you want to rate it, in my opinion. But one thing that makes it really interesting is it's not a closed market to any promoter. I don't own clubs and then tell other people they can't use it. We're actually like, oh, we get a night off? Great, come on in. It's not that there isn't some competition in between. It's not that we couldn't actually get together and work more with each other, because I think actually that's lacking. We need to listen to some Billy Bragg records. But I think for the most part, there's a general respect.
There's something interesting that I've noticed, and some of the bigger guys in the industry talked about as they're opening up these brand new venues, that they're too nice, that they've put in $30 million when maybe they really could have only done 5, because fans don't want to see shows in beautiful settings, rock shows. We're not talking about the beautiful performing art theaters, but when you go to these rock rooms, they're too nice. They're not set up for the vibe of rock and roll. Your rooms that you were talking about, Horseshoe and Silver Dollar and even Danforth, these rooms you feel comfortable having a beer in, and if something should fall out of your glass and hit the floor while somebody bumps into you, no big deal.
Can I talk about the Danforth for a sec?
Sure. That
has been an incredible addition to the live music scene in Toronto. That's something where a lot of bands are doing 2 nights there instead of going to the Queen Elizabeth or Massey Hall. Yeah. And I think it's been incredible because, I love Massey Hall for its reasons. It's a great place to see an artist that can draw 2,500 to 5,000 people. But to be honest with you, I think there's a lot of, especially younger people out there, that much prefer to go to a place like the Danforth. They can get a drink. They're not cut off 3 songs into the show like Massey does. The sightlines are superb. The staff in there is really well trained. The security is friendly. Michael, who runs the place as a GM, is a punk rocker, and he does all the little things right. He treats it like if he were a fan.
Sure.
What would the fan want in the venue? He does a really, really, really good job. Don't ever lose him.
Well, I think that's something that Michael and I have been friends for 38 years. So yes, he is like that. But one of the things that we've instilled in ourselves is to try to run our venues kind of like the way that Bill Graham would run his venues. It's got to be an experience for the band, but it's got to be a real experience for the concert goer as well. We want everyone to walk out of that place feeling good.
Which is fascinating because certainly I'm a little bit older than you, when I got into the business, I really had a whole distaste in Toronto for people that own live music venues. I felt that everyone who owned a live music venue was in the bar business. And it's really interesting. Here we are, because we.
Do you not feel you're in the bar business?
No, I've never thought I was in the bar business. I always thought I was in the music business, and I always thought I was in the artist development business. In Canada, we wear a lot of hats. You meet people. I'm an agent manager. I'm a promoter, nightclub owner. Yeah. We wear a lot of hats to make up for our dollar.
I'm a magician, video producer, promoter.
I don't really think that there's this great income to be made. I think we're doing it for the sole purpose because we wanted to belong to something, to a community in some way, wanted to make some minor contribution in our city, and we're just doing it. For me, I never even thought about like the salary I was making. I never even think about bar sales. I totally have a thing with any of the talent buyers I've trained, and I've trained a couple, good and bad, including you, and not to consider the bar when you're booking anything in your venue or as a promoter. You think of everything like you're a promoter, and I think I got that from Seth Hurwitz, from going early to new music seminars in New York, where I got to sit down with him and I said, what are you doing? And the first thing he said to me, don't tell anybody you own your clubs. You're a promoter. You make 15% on every show and you don't own your clubs. They'll go after your bar. And the second thing that he told me was, you're doing every show to get people in to buy tickets. So I'm in the business of selling tickets to make the band overages, and everything else is just a scorecard that goes with it.
It's certainly a philosophy that puts music first and puts the fans first, and it builds artists' careers when it's not about selling the popcorn once you get them in there.
And I feel when I go to places like the Danforth Music Hall, I feel that's the overriding philosophy. But my friends feel that way. They're so comfortable going there. Of all the new venues that have opened in the last 5 years, that is the most comfortable one. And I think you've done really well with the multiple show thing there. It's incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think like with the multiple show thing too, it's a classy look.
When you say multiple shows, you're talking about multiple shows like bands playing multiple nights? You're talking about multiple different acts on the same night?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
No, I guess I call that multiple shows. I call that like
a 3-night run, a 2-night run.
You're talking about a stand.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You guys are old enough to know the whole blues and soul circuit of the 60s and early 70s in Toronto, I guess, and other places in North America. No, so the whole deal here is you came to Albert's Hall or the Horseshoe and you did a full week.
Royal
like
Albert
Monday
Hall.
to Saturday. So when Willie Nelson played the Shoe, which was a lot in the 50s and 60s, it was like for a full week. I don't even know if there were like 2 shows on Saturday night or anything like that. So Stomping Tom Connors was the same thing. Blue Rodeo.
Well, that's how acts did it. They'd come
Right.
in the first night, the
Right.
press would come out and they'd see them.
Right. I think
and
it was-
then it would build a little bit on Tuesday, word would get out, and the weekends would be packed.
Right. At Albert's Hall, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was free.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. Some of the, like, I was really into the Zydeco thing at the time, Buckwheat Zydeco and all those bands. Spirit of the West built their whole reputation in Toronto on the basis of playing a week in Albert's Hall. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was free, and then Thursday would be like, $5. Then it got to like 8 or 10 by the weekend.
So this is an amazing music city. One of the better ones in the world.
I think it is.
Your ticket sales based on the national chart show that you're one of the better ecosystems for people to go out.
I think we're
and
number.
buy
I think
tickets.
we're number 4 now.
So it's like Denver, LA, New York, Chicago, you guys.
I went to a
amazing
seminar at
markets.
Polestar, and Michael Cole said we were number 4, so he must know. I don't know.
I think that we were told that by Ticketmaster.
Oh, okay,
too,
Rapinoe's talking today. Maybe he'll confirm that.
Yeah, I think I was told Toronto is the 4th largest concert market in North America.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that stuff fluctuates a little bit, but like people go out to see music here.
You want to hear the competition part, which is interesting? Austin doesn't rank anywhere in the top 10, yet they've named themselves the live music capital of North America.
Well, and
oh, actually, the world.
problem with this,
and I love Austin, by the way.
Austin's a great city, but they just don't have the population.
They don't have the ecosystem that we have in Toronto.
Well, it's the 3rd biggest city in Texas. It's not. I mean, you guys are the biggest city in your country. Like, it's not even in comparison.
And one of the biggest in North America too. I
Right.
mean, it's probably it's.
I mean, there's
fourth
New York,
most populous in
Chicago,
North
LA,
America.
and then Toronto, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Houston
like right up there.
maybe.
I think Houston might be bigger.
Okay.
But yeah. But I mean, you're talking a major metropolitan.
Yeah, but they don't have the deli we have.
Right.
So there. They probably don't have any wings. Oh, they could be barbecued.
I bet you're wrong. I bet they could take you down.
I still think we could use a few more venues here, but I mean,
I got lots of complaints. Let's talk about government interference in our ecosystem here.
Well, I mean, you guys have a
you know
government
what? They
support-
just come and go like crazy. I'm gonna say to you, I don't think so. Really, I think if we need more venues here, they would be more in the 2,000 to 5,000 range.
Yeah, I think so.
Like we could use another theater here, and we definitely
something between the size of the Queen E and
we
Massey,
don't.
right?
I mean, Rebel just reopened. I honestly going there Sunday to see our Explosion show. We've done 4 shows there, and I've been snowbirding in Austin, so I haven't seen it. But so I'm going to my first show there. But I got to be really honest. They try hard there, but it's not a primarily live music club. Therefore, you always feel like you're in a space that's not really suited for you. We'll see. I'm going to go there and try it out again. But the general thing is there isn't anybody that's opened up a real dedicated live music venue larger to that, where live music is the primary reason why you're there, and it's built for it, and the sound system's built for it, and the space is built for it, and the bathrooms are built for it, and the experience is built for it. It doesn't exist in Toronto.
Have you been to our new club?
Yeah, but still, yeah.
Friendly competition in the room. Do you guys ever co-promote?
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of times. I just invoiced these guys yesterday for a bunch of shows.
And I did with you guys Mogwai a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Not only are you using each other's rooms, you're working together.
In just Toronto, or are you working in other markets together too?
Just Toronto.
Just Toronto.
I think we've done some stuff with you guys in London.
I think they do more out of town than we do. We're really more focused on Toronto. I've got a partner, Amy, who likes to dabble in the West Coast once in a while, but she likes to dabble when she's madly in love with a band and wants to hang out with them, maybe even travel with them, kind of thing. So she just does like twice a year kind of thing.
Stalker touring. It's cool.
Yeah, we haven't. We're just a small little pishy little company. We don't really have these grandiose visions of running across Canada with stuff. I also find sometimes we go very slow. I'm very conservative. I find sometimes we've taken some steps and then lost a whack of money and have to realign. I feel like I do something really dumb. A whole bunch of employees are going to be out of jobs, and I feel really bad about that. Guilty. I'll survive.
Is that why you haven't franchised the Horseshoe into other markets? Because
I've never even
you're basically the
thought about
CBGBs of Canada.
In a way, yeah. Or our combination.
I mean that in a
our
good way, by
combination
the way.
of the
You know that, right? That comes from a place of love.
Our combination of the CBGBs and Bottom Line, something right in the middle of it.
Sure.
Although not really well known in the U.S. Yes, with bands and agents and managers, but not the public doesn't really. If I say to someone who goes to live music all the time, they've never heard of it. You have to meet all of us. I'm the most talkative. Everybody else is very insular, very nerdy, musoids. We don't go to a lot of music industry events. I'm like the only one. We're just very insular doing our thing. Maybe everybody works too many long hours.
Could be.
It's special when you come out, though. I remember a night in the suite in New York where one of the Live Nation guys wound up changing clothes with the woman and came out in a dress from the bathroom. Do you remember this?
I remember this.
I don't want to say who it was, but he was very...
Which is why when I
kind of want to know now.
When I came here today late...
Do tell.
And you served me a glass of water, I thought there was something wrong. I thought it was wine. I was like, going to
I don't have those Jesus powers where I can turn water into wine for you.
Maybe there's harder liquor license laws in Toronto.
I want to thank you guys for taking time to talk to us. I feel like you guys have created an environment of friendly competition in this market from the top down that we don't see necessarily, not just in America, but in any other market.
I think it's unique.
I think it's really unique. It's become challenging the last little while. There's some new players in the market, and there's definitely a lot of people that are jockeying for different positions, but I think that the staple players that have been here for a while now are not going anywhere, and it's hard to say the landscape, what's going to happen in the next couple of years here.
There's smaller independent promoters in the city. I've always told my staff, work with anybody. So there's a couple of people out there who just do hardcore and punk rock, and we say, okay, well, you got something you want to bring to us you can't handle, we'll be the lead, we'll do it with you. We'll make sure you're part of the whole show. We're just very much like, don't want to cut anybody out. We're not that aggressive. We're doing fine. We have lots. We have something like 700 shows a year. We don't need to have 25 more necessarily. So we're very cool with everybody. And
Seems like a
I
true
think everybody
definition
else
of a
like that.
civil war.
Yeah,
it's like the friendly fire.
Yeah.
Everyone gets along. Yeah.
Jeff Cohen, Stephen Riff, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us on Promoter 101.
One thing is absolutely for sure. If you want to break into Toronto's music scene, you need one of those fine gentlemen's help to do so.
This is Marcia Vlasic, and I am president of AGI Talent Agency, and on Promoter 101.
Hey, if you want to reach out to us, send us an email at steiny@promoter101.net.
On our next episode, we're going to be joined by the Boweries Presents Jim Glancy, who's going to sit down and talk with us about everything from Brooklyn Steel to the sale to AEG. We're also going to be joined by ICM Partners Meg White, who's going to talk about the agency's recent successes.
Here's to your champagne wishes and caviar dreams and sold-out shows. Until next week, cheers.
Hi, this is Heath Miller.
Becca Leifer.
Ed Mike Cohen. Derek Dimmonstein. Jason Kupperman.
Jason Miller. John Schur.
Marcia Vlasic.
Mike Friedman. Ricardo Bacco.
Peter Schwartz.
Nick Storch. I'm on Promoter 101.
Promoter 101.
I'm on Promoter 101.